BORTLE here, back from the PPG Remote Duel Regional Event. My goodness, post Lightning Overdrive. We have here top four contestant. Please introduce yourself to the world, man.
Hey there, I'm Rehan Saeed, or Diaz on Discord and Dueling Book, and I played Tri-Brigade Zodiac for this event.
So, what made you decide to play this deck post Lightning Overdrive, man?
I think because like it got new cards, and I think the biggest thing was it's like a newer deck for me. Like for the past I guess year and a half, I've been playing Invoke Shadal, and I just wanted to test something new out.
Oh, that's great. Makes the game more fresh for you. Uh,
Yeah.
so, what deck defeated you in the top four, man?
I don't know if it's the deck, but I think it was more so like myself. I actually got a game loss in the game three of top four that make me crash out, and I'll go into it later because it was caused by one of the cards in my deck. But it was to Dragon Link and the eventual winner as well. So huge shout out to him. I think he played the deck extremely well, and I think Dragon as a whole, it's a very difficult matchup for this deck. But I was lucky to get as far as I did, I think.
Before we start the actual deck profile, do you have any shoutouts?
Sure. Shout out to my testing partner, Robert Konowski. Shout out to Shun Ping. I did a lot of testing with them, and some of the cards and ratios in this deck are actually influenced by his deck as well. So huge shout out to him. And shout out to Duelist Academy for their constant support and overall vibes.
Sweet. Well, without further ado, please take away with the rest of your deck profile.
Sure. So I'll go through the main deck first. I have it all sorted out. The standard ratios of like 3, 3, and 2. So we have Tri-Brigade Fractal. For anyone that doesn't know what he does, he just sends any Tri-Beast, so Wing Beast, Beast Warrior, or Beast, so I'm just going to refer to them as Tri-Beast for the remainder of the video. So he sends any Tri-Beast from your deck to the graveyard. So you play 3, 2, 3. You do play Desires in the deck, so that's why, and you do have like a bit of a grind game that you want. So that's why you play 3, you max out on all copies, and none of them are actually bricks. I think the worst one would be Karis, and because you play Desires, you do want the second Karis in your deck, just in case you banish one. But Karis will be the only bad one to draw. Everything else is like, it's good if you draw it. So that's a pretty standard engine. And then I am playing the Zodiac package. So I'm playing the one Rapier, Ram, Wigtail, and the Barrage. There's a combo where, you go for Rapier, and then normal summon Rapier along with a Nerval or Kid in your hand. Usually ends on like an Appaloosa with 2 negates, a Live Trident, and a Revolt set, which is pretty strong in my opinion, just because like, those Appaloosa negates are actually protected by Trident. So like, you can, if your opponent can't just go battle phase and crash over it. This was pretty good. I also play Zeus in the extra deck, and I think Zeus can go into a 4 material Zeus with this deck, which is I think pretty strong, both in the mirror matches, Dragon Link, and everything else. So this is pretty good. I think the biggest thing for this deck is that it just never actually breaks. When you're breaking, I think like the remainder of your cards are actually just defensive cards. So if you're breaking, that means like your opponent also usually is not playing, and you're gonna get the pass back, which is nice. 3 Tenki. Tenki searches any one of the Zodiacs, and it also searches the Tri-Brigade Fractal. So which is pretty good for consistency. So essentially, you have your deck pretty much just like searches itself out, which is pretty good. Another consistency card is Desires. 2 of the big cards in this deck being these 2. For Jet and Blossom. Their grave effects require you. So this one draws 1 and puts back 1, and this one adds 1 of the spell trap card from the Tri-Brigade archetype and puts back 1. So because they require you to put back 1, Desires is really nice in this deck because it lets you get that +1, and then you can just cycle it back, depending on if you want to draw or like a search. So that's pretty nice. Along with like the rest of the main deck just really doesn't matter because your entire core is very like it's all 3 ofs, it's very consistent, and then the rest of the deck is like it's all defensive cards, which is nice. So I think defensive slots, there are about 19 or 18 defensive slots in this deck. Pretty sure 19. I'm playing Forbidden Chalice. Chalice is nice because there's a big representation of Tri-Brigade Zodiac. And Chalice is good going first and second. It's almost like a pseudo-imperm. So the Chalice in my deck was actually influenced by Shinping. We tested it, and he was playing Chalice and I wasn't, and he just bodied me every time. Because Chalice is really good, because it's chainable to Dryden, chainable to Appaloosa, chainable to Omen when they summon it off Revolt. In other matchups, it's good against, when decks make IP into Unicorn, Mechaba, Winda, things like that. The fact that you have a chainable negate is very good. So it's a really good card. And because you also play Imperm in this deck, going second, they're all good to draw. So they can all be really good to draw as your 6th card. and you have a very high chance because you're playing 6 copies of like these single effect negations that you can negate the opponent's Appaloosa or Trident or whatever. Triple Ash, good all-around coverage. Triple Nibiru, triple Gamma, and then we have triple Imperm. So these are my sort of going second defensive cards. The deck is pretty adept at going first and second just because of like the number of defensive cards you're actually playing. Imperm is very nice because in the mirror, you want your opponent to waste resources. So once you start, like, because all the Tri-Brigade gets banished from the grave for cost, Imperm and Gamma are really good at both putting them behind resources, but also making sure that they're not getting their effects off. So I think those are very good from that perspective. Gamma, I was initially playing Veiler, but I found the Veiler was a bit too limiting in terms of like it wasn't good enough. It really does what the Chalice and Imperm do, but because of it like being single point negation and the fact that everyone is playing starting to play triple attack as talent, I find that Gamma is just a lot more impactful. And a lot of your openings are actually susceptible to Duel and Ash. So Gamma is also a pretty nice defensive card, being a pseudo cop of the grave. Like if you go tanky, they can Ash your tanky, they can Ash your fractal, they can Ash your desires, or if you whatever you add off of any one of those, you can draw you, which does actually sort of hinder your turn. So Gamma is really good against all that. And it's also good against Dragon Link, which I tried to respect by playing Nibiru in the main.
Of course.
So that's, yeah, those are all my defensive slots. And the last card in the deck is actually, I think, the star of the show, Tri-Brigade Revolt. And in my opinion, this card being searchable is actually what's made this deck tier 1. The fact that you can search a soul charge that goes into a banish that also lets you trigger all your Tri-Brigade effects on your opponent's turn is ridiculous. If you want to just end your turn on like nothing but this in the mirror, I think that's also respectable. Just prioritizing this, just because like it lets you get follow-up, a disruption, fodder engrave. It's an all for one. It doesn't lose to any spell and trap card removal, so it's very, very good. The only card that this would lose to would be Bell, but usually your boards do end off on an Appaloosa if your opponent already doesn't hand trap you. So Bell isn't as great, and it's why I also wasn't playing in my deck. So for the extra deck, we have our Link 1 Almirage. The Kit and Nerval can both be normal summon and turn into Almirage, which then procs the grave effects to like search another Tri-Brigade. So that's why you play Almirage. This is a new searcher. When sent to graveyard, you can search any spell or trap from the Tri-Brigade archetype, add it to your hand, and then shuffle add one to the bottom of your deck. So it's good. It searches Revolt. This is actually the card that cost me my top 4 game and caused me a game loss. Because the big thing to keep in mind with this card is that when you do use its effect to search the Tri-Brigade Revolt, it does lock you into a restriction of special summoning only Tri-Brigade monsters for the rest of the turn. And because I used this against my Dragon Link opponent, because I summoned it off of Revolt and linked it away, used its effect when I really didn't need to actually, I was locked into special summoning Tri-Brigades. So I ended up actually using the Nibiru I had in my hand, and when turn was passed back to me, we realized that it caused an illegal game state in which that Nibiru couldn't actually be summoned, and that's what led to the game loss.
Oh man.
So it was unfortunate, but it's something to, I guess, really keep in mind that this actually does lock you out, both on your turn and your opponent's turn. It also has another effect that actually came up twice, when you discard 2 cards from your hand, you can special summon one of your banished Tri-Brigade monsters back and then use their effects again, if you haven't used them already in the turn, which is nice. It actually came up twice. In a simplified game state, it's really nice. When you pitch dead cards like dead hand traps, like Gamma and Nibiru, it's pretty good. Frigid, which is the draw one and put one back, it's a nice draw card. It also lets you play cards like Nibiru and Gamma with a bit of more comfort, because you know that even if those cards are dead, you can just put them at the bottom of your deck and just draw a fresh new card. So from that respect, Gamma is really nice to incorporate to this deck. So I think those 2 were the only ones that really required explanation. Double Dragon Lord, this is like the seals of the deck, just, sends 1, bounce 1. Rugal, pretty underrated. It lets you set up a really nice grind game. Doom Eagle. Doom Eagle just shuffles back some card in your opponent's deck, and when your opponent controls no monsters in their graveyard, it gains 2400 attack, so it becomes 4800, leading to like easy OTKs. You play 2 Omen. You play 2 because the banish effect comes up, especially in the grind game where you want to banish cards from your opponent. So usually you're summoning this off of Revolt to use its effect. But you also do have plays where you use this as your opening play. So because when this card is sent to the graveyard and you have Tri-Brigade monsters or like Tri-Beast monsters that are banished, you can add one Tri-Beast monster from your deck to your hand, equal to the number of with a level equal to the number that are banished. So there's a nice combo that lets you extend into like a 2/3 negate Appaloosa or like 2 negate Appaloosa with a Trident that's live and a Revolt. So it's a really strong combo. So 2 comes up, and then to close out the game, access code and your defensive card, especially against Drytron, is Appaloosa. This is really important against Drytron. Drytron cannot out this card unless they have a non-engine card or they attempt to run over it with Nova. So if you make a 4 negate Appaloosa, if they don't have an answer to this, their entire turn becomes very limiting. So this is a really, really good card right now. Also in the mirror, not so much against Dragon. I in my top form game against Dragon game 1, I had 2 Impermanences and a Chalice and a Revolt set and a 3 negate Appaloosa, and my opponent just played through all of that, which is ridiculous. But shout out to him. And then we have the Zodiac package. So Tiger Mortar, Borbo, Chakanine, Trident, Zeus. Really good for going second, obviously. Trident for going first as well. A big problem this deck has is against Mystic Mine. So setting up a Trident like post side is really nice because you can out your opponent's Mystic Mine. The other thing would be that this play also really gives you a nice opening turn. In by where when you're using the normal summon rack combo, you go through all of these to end on again the 2 negate Appaloosa, a Trident that's live, and then the Revolt. So I think that combo is really pretty explosive. For side deck, Penkrataps, triple Droll respecting Dragon and Drytron. So that Chalice in the main deck actually comes out for Droll because I don't choose Chalice against any of the combo decks. It's very mediocre. It's only really good for the mid-range or control decks. So it comes out for Droll, which is good going first and second against both those decks. Penkrataps is nice. Forces, Seals, and another negate. Really good in the mirror as well. So it's pretty decent. Mystic Mine, MVP. This actually just straight out won me my mirror against Tri-Brigade Zoo. Not only in this tournament, but a few of the tournaments that I've played. Because you can Mystic Mine your opponent. Usually they're ending on Revolt, Appaloosa, or the bounce. And so if you Mystic Mine them, you turn off all of their interruptions. You normal summon Zodiac, and you can just wipe the entire board with Zeus. And that just levels the playing field ridiculously after your opponents burn through their extra deck. So Mystic Mine is very good. Another one of the cards that I really like this format is Lightning Storm, because in the mirror your opponent usually commits to a lot of back row or a lot of presence in the front row, being monsters, and because you're usually emphasizing linked monsters, they're all in attack position. So Lightning Storm is very good in that respect because it can just take care of whatever is the more pressing concern, along with being back row matchups. And then Triple Twin, because there's a lot of floodgates like anti-spell and stuff for this format, along with respecting prank kids and shit all. You don't want to deal with Schism. So standby phase, Twin Twister. And Twin Twister is nice in this deck because, in draw phase, you can actually go Twin Twister, discarding Nerval and Kit, and trigger their effects. And because it's in draw phase as well, you can just dodge Drill and stuff. So it's pretty nice. And then the last card on my side, or last 4, Triple Judgment and Order. Just to entire nice failsafe to say no. I was considering anti-spell, but I consider that people are already sending Twin Twisters and stuff against me. So anti-spell really just plays into that. So it's not that great. Yeah, Judgment was okay. It wasn't great. It just did what it had to do. The reason I'm playing 4 trap cards is because going first, I usually set up the Gamma package. So it's a nice straight swap for I swap 4 of those for 4 of these. Pretty nice from that. And I think that is all. I think I've played this same list for 3 tournaments straight, a VIP qualifier, the PPG regional, and then a 50-man local last night. And it's performed very well.
And appreciate the explanation. It's very, very nice, very smooth. Thank you so much for being on the channel, and huge shout out to PPG for hosting these events. It's gearing up a lot of people for that remote duel YCS that's happening very shortly.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Thank you for having me.
And listeners, if you're not a part of BORTLE Nation, sub for BORTLE. It's that easy and it's free. Oh God, yes. BORTLE out.